I build multi-million dollar brands whilst working just 4 hours a week. It isn't through luck, it's not through I have special connections, but this is a system that pretty much anyone can copy, and it's super simple. 2 years ago, let me give you a bit of a story. I was working 8-hour work weeks, feeling completely burned out. Okay, yes, I was making decent money, but completely missing out on life. Fast forward to today, my brand and also the brands that I work with my clients have all surpassed $1 million in revenue, and we all just work 4 hours a week. You see, when I share this with other entrepreneurs, they usually don't believe me until I show them my calendar or my financial statements or Shopify dashboards, etc. You see, exactly like I was, most business owners are stuck thinking that more hours equals more success. It's exactly what I thought, but I found a different approach that most people completely overlook. I'm going to show you exactly how my business works and how I teach my clients to build their own brands. The point of this video is so you're going to understand the 3 parts that completely changed my business. So if you don't have the time or attention to literally watch this video all the way through to the end, you're going to stay broke, you're going to stay stuck, you're not going to scale your brand, you're going to be miserable. This is all out here for free, so make sure you watch it. So if you're ready to work smarter instead of harder, let's get straight into it. All right, so over to the board. What we're going to cover off here to start with is a bit more of a high-level 20,000 foot overview. So there's going to be 3 main points we're going to discuss. All right, the first one is going to be automation. The second one is going to be team building, and the third one, if I can move you up, is going to be your revenue generating side of things. So revenue optimization. Obviously, that's arguably like one of the most important parts of this. So the first one, we'll start here. We're going to start with automation. So everyone always talks about automation, but I don't really think anyone genuinely knows what it really means. So for me, this is about systems that have literally eliminated up to 90% of my daily tasks. And it's pretty much software that runs independently, again, without my time or input. Let me give you an example. So Shopify, there you go, it's my Shopify logo. This sells 24/7, 365. Yes, you have to work hard enough in the beginning to not have to work hard and get everything set up. But once it's flowing, it's not something like old websites used to struggle with bandwidth, etc., or they would crash. 9 times out of 10, Shopify is almost completely safe in terms of like any amount of volume of web traffic, within reason, of course. Second one is Klaviyo. So many entrepreneurs I see sleep on Klaviyo. Klaviyo is, for those of you who don't know, is email marketing. And this is basically my secondary conversion engine, and it's also where I focus on retention, because I see so many brand owners, they focus pretty much all of their effort on acquisition, on sales and marketing, but very little about nurturing customers. And by nurturing customers, I mean once you get the sale, that's it, end of relationship. Whereas once you have a good email flows and systems and automations in place, not only will it make you a more efficient marketer and a more efficient business, because you'll have multiple touch points built in, again, on autopilot, you're not the one sending the campaigns. You will also be able to stretch out your LTV on the back end. And this, 9 times out of 10, this is where you make most of your profit, particularly so if you have a consumable business. So for example, like a supplement, where you're not getting huge volume up front, but you'll find most of the profit is made once you've paid to acquire the customer, and then they come back 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, okay? And the way that you do this is by nurturing and developing a strong bond and relationship with your consumer, where they essentially buy into you, they buy into your brand, they know, like, and trust you already. And again, pretty much all of this runs on autopilot. The other side of Klaviyo that no one talks about is, yes, you have automation flow. So let me just split this into 2. You have your campaign structure, and then you have your automations. Your automations are the ones I'm talking about, particularly so for this video. Just move this up a little bit. So your automations is, as we know, I say this quite a lot, modern day e-com brands, first and foremost, are media companies. And the best form of marketing is customers telling other customers about your product, about your brand, about your service. So if you can build in, say, for example, your welcome series or your post purchase, or even your second purchase flows, these are automations that run 24/7 without any input from yourself. If you can build in what I call flows to incentivize CGC, this is similar to UGC, but this is actually directly from your customer. And again, instead of you having an agency or team of guys reaching out and doing influencer seeding in order for you to get content, you're able to leverage your email marketing through Klaviyo to build a good, solid, strong bond with your consumers so that you can incentivize them to send in content. And this, again, if they know, like, and trust you, if they're getting value from the product, and if they're coming up, for example, they're ready to reorder, first and foremost, why they're going to go anywhere else if they had a good experience. And second of all, there's a very high likelihood that if they are using and getting value from the service, they're going to want to come back. And that gives you leverage. And the leverage that you have is you can then say, okay, we can either give you a discount or we can give you a free product if in return you give us or take some sort of content for us. And that content, this is what keeps the flywheel spinning on the front end. And again, this is why I talk so much about the relationship starting once they purchase as opposed to it ending. So once you're able to get this content from your consumers, this builds straight back into your front end marketing again. And we haven't boxed off Facebook ads here. This could also just be anything, generic marketing. Okay, but most of your marketing is, or at least everything that's working well at the moment, is always focused around consumers and giving authentic, true reviews. And this is even more powerful in the UGC side of things because it's real, it's raw, it's authentic, it's not something that's scripted. So they're generally telling the truth. And hopefully, if these people are your target avatar, you're going to want to be able to reach more of them. What helps you reach more of them is people looking like this target avatar. They're talking like them, they use the same language, they have the same problems. So the authenticity piece really, really works well. And again, most of this is automated through Klaviyo. The only side that isn't automated is your campaigns, which again can be outsourced and delegated, which we'll get to later on in the video. So on the side of this is CS by CS and talking about customer service. And just let me tell you a story. When I first started with my first e-com brand, I had all channels because I'm focused on like front end. So this is pre-sale, so customers who have questions or objections that I need to handle live or via email. And then you also have the post-purchase queries of where's my order, or I have this problem, or what, I don't know what to do with this. And you've got these inbound channels across Facebook, Instagram, emails, you've got a live chat system. Like it's just like you're constantly checking your phone, there's notifications coming through. And having a bit of automation software like GoJess has been really good because it centralizes everything. And then once everything's centralized, you can literally hire one person. Again, we'll cover this in the delegation section towards as the video goes on, show you how to do this effectively. But this just brings everything into one place. So it's all inbound, one platform, no dispersed energy. Again, this is really going to be able to help you basically free up your time to focus on the money-making activities. And this, for you as the entrepreneur, as the owner, as the operator, is where you need to know how and where to spend your time. Other side of it, and this is all still very infrastructure-based, and you'll probably know this already, I don't need to tell you, but your 3PL, instead of you doing the manual picking and packing of orders, again, I did this for probably the first 2.5, maybe 3 years of my e-com brand. I would buy stock, I would hold it in my kitchen, carry it up 3 flights of stairs, and these are like 20, 30 kilogram boxes times 200, manually pick and pack on a table, and then go to the post office every day. Yes, the bags are getting bigger, but it's just such a poor leverage of your time because you're focused on the operational side of things as opposed to sales and marketing. So having a 3PL, and this is basically for those of you who don't understand, 3PL is a third-party logistics company. So this is a warehouse that you're no part of that runs, they have their own staff, they have their own operations, and they do picking, packing, they can ship internationally for you. You don't physically have to be there at all. This runs 24/7, 365 around the clock. And talking about scaling a brand to $1 million, it's very, very difficult to do this as a one-man band, particularly so if you're caught up in the cogs, if anything is reliant on you. And let me just give you a warning, if you are doing it, it's okay to start with at small volume, but think about it. You want the brand to serve you. If the brand starts owning you, it's the wrong way. This is where you get trapped. This is when you can't scale. So for example, you're ill, you don't feel well, or you want to take a holiday, your dog's died. It doesn't matter what it is. Like if you can't fulfill these orders, there's going to be problems. Okay, you cannot take a single day off because you're tied to the business, and that again is not a place where you want to be. And if you're looking to scale, this will keep you small. It will hold you back a lot. Okay, other side is referrals. Again, we're still sticking on like the strategic automation side of things here, but again, like we said, the best form of marketing, and there is no better form of marketing, is customers talking to other customers and referring them. So I use an app called Referral Candy. Again, have no affiliation. I'm not getting any kickback for this. I'm just showing you like what works for me. And this is an automation software which will you basically create a campaign that will give your current customers as advocates say £10 or $10 or 10% or 50%, doesn't matter what it is, off their next order. If they refer a friend, the referee then gets whatever $10, $20 off their order. And this does not require any input. It can't be taken advantage of. They can't do self-referrals, so it's not something that they can basically take the piss with. So again, scalability doesn't need any input for you other than just the setting up of it. And the final thing, I could speak all day on this, is the cash flow side of things, which, let's be honest, most of us are not good at because it's boring and we don't want to go back to college to study and learn accounting. But having a piece of software like QuickBooks or Xero is great because it gives you a good solid glance at how your business is doing financially. And this is why we're in business, right? Is to make money. If you don't understand how cash is moving, if you don't know your profitability, if you don't know what your operational overheads are, it is impossible for you to get off the mark. You can't scale, you can't run the business, you can't sustain the business. So something like QuickBooks or Xero, once you learn to use it, it's super easy. It's going to pull in the transactions. You just need to put them away, make sure they've got the right VAT or tax attested to them, auto-categorized, and then you can see at a kind of a broader sense, because you do not need to be a CPA, you don't need to be a proper accountant, but you do need to develop a good, thorough understanding of how cash is moving within your business. So again, something like QuickBooks works really well, super cheap. I think it's like $30 or $40 as well a month. So this is the automation side of things. If we bring this back, if I can move the board, the next piece we're going to look at is your team building and delegation. So this one here, so let me just move this over here. Come on, bro. All right, we'll do it here. Team. Again, my writing's not very good, but because I'm talking you through it, you know what I mean. Now, before you look at automation, just one last thing on this before we move on to the team. You cannot automate something that is not already working well or isn't efficient. It's like an input-output machine. If you scale shit, you get more shit. If you scale something that's working well, it's going to work even better at scale. It's like the whole point of scale is you have systems in place that allow you to sell 10 products, exactly the same effort, time, energy as it would to sell 10,000 units. Okay, so the principle that I want you to think of, this is what I live by, is nail it before you scale it. Start small and then scale. So if you also have the capacity and time to learn the ropes yourself, if you're not well funded, if you don't have a Series A or a Series B round coming in, it is also good for you as the operator to get a good, at least a fundamental basic understanding of how everything works. Because the second that you start to outsource things or rely on automation, if you don't understand the moving parts, it's very easy for you to be taken advantage of as well, especially if we're looking at agencies and it sounds like they're talking a different language to you. It can be very, very useful for you to at least just to have a fundamental understanding of what they're talking about and also what good looks like. And if you don't immerse yourself in it to begin with, then it will cause you problems down the line. Again, this is just me speaking directly from experience. All right, so moving over to team building and delegation. A lot of new entrepreneurs come to me and they ask how I was able to find reliable team members. And this is like, it looks easy from the outside, but sometimes it can be quite difficult, but it also doesn't need to be overcomplicated. So I say your network is generally equivalent to your network. So if there's a way that you're able to hang out in better circles, amazing. If not, if you're starting out, if you're like me, stuck in the middle of nowhere, northeast of England with no good people around you, the best or second best is having contractors. And these are contractors who are not just going to come in and take cash from you. The way I was able to leverage, even say, for example, the guy who still manages all of my brand's email marketing today was hired originally as on a performance basis. And he would come in and he would take a percentage of increased revenue because it was directly attributable to him coming in doing his work. And what that means is, just like you with your customers lead with value, your contractors, your agencies, your outsourcers, who have the depth and breadth of knowledge that you don't have, are able to essentially prove and demonstrate that these guys are good before you give them big retainers and lock in on like crazy contracts. Because let's be honest, if you're just getting started up, if you're sub 1 million a year turnover, you don't have the free cash flow to be able to take a risk or take a punt on an agency or on an individual. Very easy for anyone to say anything they want online. They can make up results, they can make up case studies. What they can't do is fudge results when they're actually in the accounting building for you. So if you can make sure they're accountable and also that your leverage downside, your downside is leveraged, you're managing the risk, perfect. Another thing is just assess that portfolio, yeah? Like look at their work, assess them, judge them. Doesn't matter what people say, only matter what they do. So make sure that you're very strict and stringent on the communication. Look how quickly they come back to you. Look at the quality of their work. If they know what they're doing, they'll be good, they'll be fast. Okay, you won't really have to train them. In an ideal world, you get guys who are already plug and play. It's okay for you to take on an 80% fit, but these guys are supposed to make your life easier, not harder. So key principle there. Doesn't matter what they say, only what they do, and just make sure you're doing as much due diligence and vetting them and making sure that there's no kind of big fees up front. Make sure it's performance related, even if it's just for the first month or 6 weeks. Because the last thing you want is someone to take money from you, do a horrible job, ruin everything you've built, and then go, and then there's no way you can get your money back. So next is my delegation. So I'm going to zoom in on here. So, right there, that was horrible. Let me write this again. Next up is delegation. So what do I mean by delegation? So delegation, for me, I have a bit of a heuristic around this, and I summarize it around into the 4 Ds: do, defer, delegate, or delete. So this is how you spend your time. Is this something that you need to do? If it's something that you need to do, you need to understand what your high IGTs are. By IGT, I mean income generating tasks. This is one of the most important things you need to know as the entrepreneur, as the founder, as the CEO, is what do you need to spend your time on that moves the needle. In the beginning, it's very stretched. You have a lot of moving parts, but once things are up and running and they're established, you don't need to be in the weeds so much. This is why we discussed having all of these softwares on the back end. So the key is knowing what do you do. Do you do something? If you do something, it has to be high leverage. It has to have asymmetry built into it. By asymmetry, I mean you put 1 unit in, you get 10 units out. If not, this then moves to defer. So is it time sensitive? Is it something that needs to be done straight away? If not, it can be in the defer folder. If not, then we move on to the next one, which is, where am I? So it's something that falls out of your skill set and there's better people who can do it. This is when you go to delegate. And again, these people, whoever's managing this, need to be better than you or better suited or have more skills, which makes sense for you to delegate instead of doing it yourself. Or the final one is to delete it. You don't need to do it. It's not important. And understanding these is key. Okay? If you do not know, if you wake up in the morning, you don't know where is the most important place to spend your time or what needs to be done. And most of the times it's like, if you think of a basic heuristic, is whatever hinders your task becomes your task. Whatever's holding you back at the moment, this is where your sole focus needs to be. If it is not related to that highest income generating task or whatever the bottleneck is, then you need to decide, do you defer this, push it back to later? If it's not time sensitive, do I delegate it to someone who's better than me, or is it something that can just be deleted and removed? Just remember, focus on your high income generating task. This is always going to be your priority, and outsource the rest. Okay, I hope this is all making sense so far. The next one is, once we have our team, is how do we speak to each other? I'm just going to title this as comms. By comms, this is basically creating a communication structure that requires minimal oversight from you. And we're using software again, so whether it's on Slack or it doesn't really matter what the platform is. It can be on Teams, it can be on WhatsApp, it can be on project management software. It doesn't matter. But the key thing is your communication is everything, and how everyone speaks to each other. Everyone needs to know exactly what they need to do and by when. So the easiest way to do this is to have SOPs. By SOP, I mean standard operating procedures in place for yourself, just so you have ways of doing things in the business that then allows things to operate at scale. Because if it's messy, if no one knows what they're doing, you get a shit ton of orders in, everything's just a mess, everything is chaos. So if you nail things when it's small, again, remember, nail it, then scale it. And once you have SOPs in place, these are all working documents as well. It's not, this is just set in stone, because things can be nuanced, things can be changed. Business is a dynamic environment, it's updating all of the time. So don't be okay to be flexible with these, but you must have key SOPs in place so that everyone knows exactly what they do, when to do it, how to do it, and then for you, you need to have some level of reporting to ensure that everyone's held accountable. Just don't leave things to chance. Make sure you always over-communicate in the beginning, at the start of any new relationship, or if you're embedding in some new software or some new marketing. Make sure everything is intertwined and linking together, because you just need one chain to break in the linkage and everything falls down. Then, when we're looking at management, the thing I learned is you should be empowering your team to do more. And that sometimes means you have to be okay with letting small bad things happen. Let them learn, but just be willing for mistakes to be made, so long as these mistakes are not repeated. If they're repeated, then you know this is a behavioral thing, then it needs to be managed out. But it's okay for you to almost increase the responsibility of your team. And an easy way to do this, for example, if you're talking about your customer service, if they're coming to you with his customers having this problem, and it's going to cost, I don't know, $100 to fix, give them a rule. So in future, I trust you, I trust your judgment, but every single query you come to me that's going to cost me less than $200, I trust you to make the right decision. This stops 99% of the inbound. It also empowers them, and they feel like they can make their own decisions. If, again, you need to be tracking this, you need to be monitoring it, so it's not going too far off piste. But this really, really helps. It also gives your employees a sense of, not entitlement, but they feel like they have more control. They don't need to defer or always ask above. Okay, so just something that I learned, again, the hard way, because it's so easy when it's your business, it's your baby, this is something you created, to trust someone else to manage it. Okay, because it's not their baby. Like, they go home and switch off and have a nice time on the evening, whereas you're still processing, you're still working. It's very hard for you to switch off. So having that process, really good, frees up a lot of your bandwidth, and also it gets them more bought into your company because they feel directly part of it, even though they're just an employee or contractor. Cool. Now, the last thing on our list, we're talking here, where are we? Right at the start. Oh, it's so small down there. Was your revenue optimization side of things. And remember, this is why we're in business in the first place. We're not here to have a nice time. We're not here to make friends. We are here to make cash. And as easy as it can be to say, the cash side of things means you have to have a profit-focused product strategy. Cash, can't even spell profit. Let's get this right. Nope, give up. Get rid of this. I'm going to zoom right in for this one so we can get it written correctly. Profit is everything. How do we do it? Pretty easy. Understand your margin. Stay lean. And when I say stay lean, I mean do not. It's very easy for lifestyle creep to come up on you, whether it's your personal life or your business, really quickly, particularly so when cash starts coming in. It's easy just to kind of free spend or use your business money as your pocket money. Don't do that. Audit your costs every single month. We mentioned earlier on looking at QuickBooks. This will give you a good 20,000 foot overview of how your cash is being dispersed within your business. But the key is you always want to ensure that there are no subscriptions you're not using. If you're able to push to negotiate, say with suppliers, even if it's just routinely, I do this every quarter. Sometimes suppliers, you're able to get leverage because as the business grows, you're going to order more stock, which means you are able to tap into what's called the scale of economy. And that basically means the more stock you order, the lower the unit cost is because they're much more efficient operations. Again, all of this feeds back into your bottom line, and staying and keeping that profit-focused product strategy is key. So understand your margin. Always, where possible, make sure that your pricing structure for your product or your service is high as well. The principle I use for this is price high and justify, as opposed to going lower cost but higher volume. All you have there is just more problems. You have more customers, you have more moving parts, more logistics, whereas if you can sell less for more, perfect. Again, it depends on the brand, it depends on what you're selling. It's going to be nuanced, of course, but this, I'm just talking gold standard here. The next thing is basically building in some sort of psychology, and psychology that helped double our margin. So as I said, price high and justify, in the way that you are talking to or taking this journey, your customer on this journey, is always leading with perceived value and then creating a whole brand experience. And just understanding how they're flowing, where they're landing. So this whole funnel, making sure it's mapped out and making sure the customers are able to buy more and buy more at first point of sale and of course on the back end. So we're looking at maybe can you send, instead of going to an individual product, can you sell a bundle? Is there upsells you can get in there? Make sure you're capturing emails to convert any low-hanging fruit, because even if they don't convert there and then, you know you're going to be able to get them if there's a sale, if they're price sensitive, for example. Just basically having all of these systems in place that they're all well thought out. It's not something I've just pulled something out of thin air and this is my pricing strategy. Understand it, push for more, think about the consumer, obsess over the consumer. Where are they? What's their desired situation? How can you get them there quicker? And build in your 3 force multipliers of time, quality, cost. Can you save them more time? Can you save them more cost? Can you give them better quality than, say, a competitor, or some unique thing about your product in the way that you position it that adds perceived value that will allow you to charge more and of course still get the sale. The force multiplier here, of course, is building a recurring revenue model that creates predictability. Guys, if you're building your store to sell it, and you have an exit strategy, having a subscription business is amazing because you have predictable monthly recurring revenue. It's not every time you get to the start of a new month. The thing that's going to really multiply things for you, again, and all of this can be on autopilot, is having some sort of recurring revenue model. This way, when it comes to the new month, you're not just starting at zero again. If I ask you where your next sale's coming from, you know predictably with a very high degree of certainty that you have X amount of money coming in. And over time, this is what allows your business and revenue to compound and grow. We're stretching out LTV, and we're also offering way more value to the customer because it's going to save them time. As stupid as it sounds, the time saved going on, logging in, buying, processing, all of this stuff is just done. It's autopilot. So it's a better value proposition to the consumer. You're able to save them money because they're subscribing. Therefore, your pricing strategy should always be pointing to the subscription being the number one thing that they buy. So you're adding convenience as well. So convenience, better cost, better experience, and they're locked in. It's just if they have a consumable product like a supplement, they don't have to think about running out ever again because it turns up on the door every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, done. The consumer stays in the driving seat as well, so you're not locking them in. Again, there's strategies around this if you want to kind of stretch out a little bit more. But again, we are focusing on what's right for the business, but layering that in with what's right for the customer, and finding that balance is key. If you're looking to sell your business one day as well, having MRR, which is monthly recurring revenue, via subscription service is very appealing to potential acquirers. So again, it's a kind of tertiary reason to have this built in. But yeah, it should be a no-brainer for you if you have a consumable. So to summarize, you do not have to work hard. This is what we're talking about in this video. It's not about working harder to build a successful business. If you focus on the right systems, the right team structure, the right revenue model, you can literally create $1 million brand that runs pretty much without you. This is how I do it. And I come literally from nothing. I figured this all out on my own. I didn't have any of this information. You now have this information, so go take action on it. I have all of this packaged into a free course, which will be linked in the description. Sign up, go through it. This is all of my knowledge completely for free. You've got nothing to lose. All you need to do is put your email, it'll take you 1 second. And if you'd like to work directly one-to-one with me to help scale your brand, click the link in the description and we'll book a call in.